For Hyde and Underworld partner Rick Smith, the seeds of techno had been sown.
They had this metronomic, tight machine sound with this wandering humanness that kind of messed about over the top of it, that sort of drifted around, and we absolutely loved that. It was humorous to us, and there was a beauty in that human and machine, and kind of sounds cold talking about it like that, but it's incredibly funky.
The success of Autobahn enabled the band to go on tour outside Germany, including a lengthy tour of the USA. Naturally, the live show was a bit different as well. While most 70s bands on world tours began to build themselves reputations involving groupies, the destruction of hotel rooms, drugs, baby sharks and alcohol, Kraftwerk increasingly indulged their passion for cycling. Most stories of tours mutate like Chinese whispers, and whilst the subject matter is a little different, Kraftwerk seem to have done so as well. Here's Milo.
My favourite story about Kraftwerk was when one of them went on a 100-mile cycle ride and he got hit by a bus or something halfway round, and he ended up in hospital in a coma for 3 days, and first thing he asked when he woke up was, what happened to my bicycle? You know, it's like, they were, true obsessives in every sense of the word.
On stage, their democratic dynamic was different from the traditional band setup. Hot chip.
I suppose it's an expression that you know, you're not dealing with a sort of traditional band with a hierarchy, with a drummer at the back and a lead guitarist who comes out of the front and a lead singer and this kind of thing. You know, everybody's sort of just presenting themselves in this quite straightforward way, and everybody's got like an equal part to play, and it's just like the machine coming together.
I'm Alex Kapranos on Radio 1, and this is the story of Kraftwerk, the men who shaped the sound of pop music today. Their desire to avoid playing live in the conventional way led to some other bizarre innovations, cycling across the stage on their bikes or sitting at their computers. Wolfgang Flür was known to play a drum cage in which the movements of different body parts would create different drum sounds. Despite the fact that they were going through a period of creative and commercial success, they sometimes had to battle to be taken seriously. They were considered a curiosity by the mainstream, as demonstrated by BBC TV's primetime science programme Tomorrow's World, inviting them to play live.
Kraftwerk have a name for this. It's Maschinenmusik. The sounds are created at their laboratory in Düsseldorf, programmed, then recreated on stage with the minimum of fuss. This is Autobahn, based, say the group, on the rhythm of trucks, cars and passing bridges heard while driving through Germany. Next year, Kraftwerk hope to eliminate the keyboards altogether and build jackets with electronic lapels which can be played by touch.
And there's no doubt that while the patronage of the likes of David Bowie earned some kudos, the band still suffered ridicule in some quarters. Karl Bartos was a member of the band during their 70s and 80s heyday.
We had not so many approval at that time. You know, the New Musical Express, they had a centerfold. They make a collage and they put us on the Nuremberg Tribunal with a swastika on top, and they said the final solution of music, haha. And they want to make the machines work, and now it has become normal. We knew that it would be the industrialisierung of music.
More recently, comedian Bill Bailey has put synths to the hokey-cokey in an affectionate parody of the band's look and sound.
Man stellt die linke Arm ein, die linke Arm aus, macht das hokey-cokey und man dreht sich herum.
Autobahn and Radioactivity kicked off the band's most productive period, and they would go on to release 3 albums that would change music forever. The Man Machine, Computer World, and first of all, Trans-Europe Express. Whenever magazines put together one of those awful top 100 best albums of all time ever lists, they usually mention Trans-Europe Express, in part because of its great influence on hip-hop. In turning elements of Trans-Europe Express and another Kraftwerk track, Numbers, into Planet Rock, Arthur Baker and Africa Bambaataa had released a genre-defining record. Hip-hop and electro pioneer Africa Bambaataa.
Basically, with Planet Rock, I said, we need to make something that's spacey and funky. We took Kraftwerk's Numbers, because we knew the beat was real funky. I seen that cause a crazy reaction on the dance floor. Then I revamped Trans-Europe Express is playing it funkier and faster.
Renowned producer Arthur Baker pioneered electro production with Africa Bambaataa and later New Order.
And then he came up with the break beat from Super Sperm, which was Captain Sky. That was sort of the break beat. And then the Rockin' Don't Stop It was something that we came up with together, and I came up with the Rock for Planet Rock. But it was really, I mean, when I took the first cassette home, even before there was a rap on it, I said to my wife, we made a classic.
Ali Love, tipped by the NME as one of the brightest stars for 2006, fuses synths, guitars, and cites influences as wide as Prince, the Ramones, and Kraftwerk.
Trans-Europe Express, I reckon, that's one of my favourite ones. It's just got that electro kick and that kind of, just these mad pulses. It's got this mad electric pulse that, it's still just as good as anything out there, It's the same thing that's kind of happening in dance, that whole German minimalist kind of thing that's happening, it's still going on. There's no one else who did it, like that, and it still sounds just as fresh as anything. Any electronica, that's the strange thing, is that it still sounds so fresh.
Underworld's Carl Hyde.
Trans-Europe Express, off that album, because of the time it takes to say what it needs to say. That to me is inspirational. It doesn't try and crush something down to 3.5 minutes, and to me it taunts us to let music be as long as it wants to be, and to be uncompromising.
And the album illustrated their increased fascination for robots and their potential to replace people.
Trans-Europe Express kind of has a lot of the pop songs and the travelling thing, and then just kind of, crazy breaking glass and dummies and just kind of horror. I found it to be quite a horror record.
Ladytron's Mira Arroyo.
They weren't your classically good-looking, 17-year-old guitar-smashing band, which a lot of people were at the time. A lot of the music that they made was during the time of punk, and that was just like nothing like it. But at the same time, I think it was actually a lot more punk than any of these bands were, just because they weren't afraid to do something completely new. And I think that's what's actually important, is to not be scared and not try and follow trends or not try and follow whatever's going on at the time, but just not be scared to, be witty and be funny and just do something new.
It's interesting that they're kind of they're very sort of po-faced all the time, and they've got that very straight delivery. And although it was obviously, I don't know whether it started out as a thing where they went, let's just be robots. I don't quite know whether they made that decision.
I think they did.
Henry and House from the Young Knives.
And then they must have just one day go, like, we've made an electric drum kit and we're trying to make, let's just be robots.
Released in 1978, the first thing to strike you about the Man Machine is the iconic cover. Carl Clefish's bold design features a stark red, black and white colour scheme. The symmetrically posed band have their unsmiling faces turned to face the same direction, as if gazing towards a distant utopian future. Inspired by Russian artist Lisitsky, this is one of the most dramatic pieces of band artwork, and like the best artwork, it hints at what might be inside the sleeve. In this case, it's simple, powerful, beautiful, bittersweet music that sounded like the future. For Milo, it's a high point in synth pop.
Got tracks like The Robots on it. We are the robots. And the model, if anything, would be a track you might recognise if you hadn't actually heard of Kraftwerk. It's the closest thing they ever came to doing a pop song. In fact, it's almost got a chorus to it, but it's still very, very minimalist and synth poppy and very kind of repetitive.
She's a model and she's looking good. I'd like to take her home, that's understood. She plays hard to get, she smiles from time to time.
Up to number 3, Golden Brown by the Stranglers. At number 2, last week's number 1, Oh Julie, Shakin' Stevens. And new at number 1, The Model, Kraftwerk.
The Model, which became their only number 1 UK single 3 years after initial release, is the only Kraftwerk track to still receive regular radio airplay today. It was a song that introduced me to the band as a kid, and for William Orbit, a man who's devoted most of his career to electronic pop with acts including Madonna and the Sugar Babes, it is still a source of joy.
Oh, because it's just